Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, we begin with a really interesting story from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and then we move on to an absolutely fantastic petty revenge. So, as usual, if you want to move around the video, you can always use the timestamps right below it. And now, let's get started with that first story. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user ThrowArrayMorning. I, 31 male, am reconsidering my marriage after my father-in-law's death. We have been together for 10 years, married for 5. My father-in-law passed away at the start of the year. It has been difficult. I have been there for her. I have taken over a ton of chores. I have been a shoulder to cry on. I have made sure she has the space to talk about him and cherish his memory. It has struck me that she did none of this when my father passed away. He died 3 years ago. My wife was with me during the funeral, but she didn't let me break down or take time for myself. She always said that my dad wouldn't want me to cry about him and I should carry on working and pulling 70-hour weeks because that is what he would have wanted, for me to be a good family man like he was. I believed her and just pushed back all the emotions. I was only able to mourn and talk about him properly with my best friend. I thought it was fine then. I didn't want to bother her. Right now, I feel like my father's death was something I had to deal with, while her father's death is something that happened to all of us. I know it is silly to compare and contrast, but this pattern holds for most of our marriage. Her emotions and problems are our problems, while my emotions have to be processed outside our family. I honestly don't know how to bring this up. I don't think I am ready to leave her when she is still struggling, but bringing this up will just make things worse. I am terribly confused. Well, OP, in my opinion, it is fair to compare and contrast. Very similar situation, two different ways to deal with it. From what you tell us, the kind of support, and I'm doing air quotes here, that your wife gave you when your dad died is not the same that you are giving her. She basically pushed you to working more and to just ignore the way you were feeling and just pull through, right? Why can't she do the same? If I was in your shoes, I would sit down with my wife and talk to her. Communication. Tell her what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and what you think is unfair. Now, the problem you face is, how do you bring this up to somebody who's in mourning? Well, it's been like 8 or 9 months since your father-in-law apparently passed away, so I'd say that's kind of a fair amount of time for you to be able to sit down with her and tell her all of this, right? I mean, I've never been in this situation, so I could be absolutely wrong. What do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. LemonZesty88 says, I'm sorry you didn't get the support you needed when your father died. Is it a pattern with your wife to not be emotionally supportive of you, or was it just around your father's death? I can't really tell from your post. If you are just realizing that this is a pattern in your relationship, it's a valid and important complaint. If it was just around your father's death, I think you should talk to her about it. She may not have realized what she was doing. She may not have realized how hard it was for you. Sometimes, when someone hasn't experienced a close death like that themselves, they just don't get it. But if she really thinks don't dwell and get back to work is defensible, you have some thinking to do. Griselda Loves Cats says, it doesn't sound like much of a marriage to me. It sounds like you are a combination of extra income and emotional support animal. Giving the therapy realities, find a lawyer and get yourself financially and emotionally ready for a divorce. You deserve so much more in a partner and spouse. Kay Ari says, instead of reconsidering the marriage, see this as an opportunity for discussion. She is mourning now, so hold off. But in a couple of weeks, bring it up. Be prepared for a, are you seriously bringing up something from the past? And you should rightfully answer, yes. Frame this not as an, I did this for you, why didn't you do it for me? Rather frame it as something you noticed and want not to repeat in the case of loss in the future. Explain that the same way you cared for her is the same way you want to be cared for during the time of loss. However, if this isn't her only instance of selfishness, then feel free to reconsider the marriage. If she is considerate otherwise, have an open discussion about how it made you feel and how you want to be treated in times of loss in the future. OP's edit to add: it is a pattern. She is very considerate and generous on small things, but she can be selfish about big things. For instance, the reason we moved to our current city was that she loved it and she got an offer here. It was a pretty bad move for me in terms of career opportunities, but she made it clear that it was either the move or divorce. It sucked, but I made the move. I have tried to put my needs on the table, but she knows how to steamroll me. The move was a pretty big deal for me. She made it sound incredibly romantic. She knows how to do that, but it also made sense. She is older than me and is ahead in her career. It makes sense as her earning potential is higher than mine. Someone suggested therapy, and I have been to therapy, but the money comes out of my fun money instead of our expenses. I'm not sure if she had to go, it would come out of her fun money. Okay, well, the big takeaway here comes from OP's edit to add. Apparently, it is a pattern with the wife that she is selfish for big things but is okay with little things. In any case, let's continue on with the update to see what happened after this. I ghosted my own wife. I want to thank all the commenters for pointing out how effed up my marriage was. I had been planning a trip to see my nephew for a while. I finally decided to go. I flew back home and I have been staying with my sister. I took all the important documents with me because I wanted them with me just in case. I knew that if I tried to talk with her, I would fold and stay. I needed space and I needed time. I am surrounded by unconditional love here. Even if I hurt my sister or brother, they will be hurt and angry, but they will still love me. My wife can turn her affection on and off like a switch. I am grappling with my role in the relationship. All the crap in the post is just the tip of the things she's pulled on me, and I only realized a few of them when I was talking to someone on Reddit. I have talked to her about divorce, and she is trying to win me back. She has even talked to me about moving back. I had to quit my job. It will hurt my career, but my boss was strangely understanding. I have contacted a divorce attorney, and I know it is going to be messy and long, but I want to do it. I really don't see a future for myself right now, and what is my most important motivation for getting a divorce is that I have already made her angry. Even if I go back now, she will still be angry. I am terrified of what she will do to me to work through that anger, and we would go back to being loving after she vented. But I don't have the emotional strength to go through that, and I am deeper in every day I don't return. Divorce becomes a better option even though I still miss her. I really do love her, but I can't live like this. I am talking to my attorney and we are going to file soon. Honestly, her having to deal with a lawyer would be a good idea. Her fake nice side feels so real that I don't know if it is fake, but I know there is still a lot of anger lurking there. I am planning to go to therapy. I have tried therapy and stopped it. I want to start again. Well, OP, at least you've made a decision and you're moving forward with it. I'm not sure I personally would have skipped town to avoid confronting her, but I guess it's a personality thing. Hopefully, this will work out for you. All the best, OP, take care, and thanks for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge, and it's by user Granet Blanco. Lie about having COVID to take 6 weeks off while I do your work for free? I'll throw an all-office party to announce where you really were. Mid-pandemic, my boss disappeared. Just as we were gearing up for our most challenging, time-intensive project in the last 5 years, he dropped off the face of the earth. We kept working for a week or so without him because everything was virtual and the virtual work world was still so new. We didn't really need him. We were delegating tasks ourselves and completing things on our own. We spoke to co-workers maybe twice a week, but some decisions were beyond our discretion, so we could not move forward on those aspects of the project until we received a response from him. After about 7 to 10 days of total silence, we called my boss's boss, who informed our team that our boss had COVID, so wasn't able to work right now. We took that at face value, of course, and sent him letters of well wishes and didn't bother him with work stuff or ask why he was able to notify his boss but not us. Anyway, 3 weeks go by, still not a word. We're beginning to discuss amongst ourselves whether or not he's maybe died. We're terrified and horrified and so concerned. We're contemplating calling his extended family. We're sending flowers and care packages to his apartment. Meanwhile, the project has descended into chaos because no leader was appointed in our boss's stead. So, we are forced to navigate several layers of bureaucracy in order to accomplish most anything at all, whereas in the past, he would have just signed off in real time. Around week 4 or 5, one of our co-workers suggests he doesn't really have COVID, but is instead using it as an excuse to take time off. We all jump all over our co-worker, asking how he could insinuate something like that, and lamenting about what a tragedy our boss is probably living through. People were chilly to him for days after that. Week 7. We're undertaking a letter writing campaign to upper management demanding an acting boss be appointed while ours is recovering. The project is a month behind schedule. We're all working overtime every day, sometimes on weekends, without extra compensation, just to keep up with the cluster F of the boss's sudden absence. Week 8, he finally reappears, logging into a morning meeting as though nothing happened. He looks well rested, well fed, and has a tan. Not at all like someone who's just come out the other side of a 6-week respiratory virus. He says something quickly to the effect of, "Yeah, that was brutal. Glad to be better and glad to be back. Let's get back to work." But doesn't want to talk about what happened or answer any of our questions like, "Were you in the hospital? What was it like?" etc. Fast forward to about 4 or 5 months after this. My sister sends me a promo for a fairly new reality show. I'd never heard of it, but it's on a major platform, and says, "Isn't this guy a friend of yours or something? I swear I've seen him and you together." I watched the trailer for this show, and lo and behold, there's my boss, participating as a contestant on a reality TV show. It did not take long for me to put the pieces together and realize he took extended leave to go on TV, that he knew he wouldn't get otherwise during this massive project, and lied about it under the guise of a vicious disease that nearly all of us had lost a loved one to. So I sit and stew with this information, unsure of how to handle it. I know confronting him won't get me very far, but I can't just do nothing, right? I'm not close enough with any of my colleagues to discuss this with them and trust that they wouldn't run off and send an all-company email about it. So I slept on it a few nights, and then the opportunity fell right in my lap. I got an email from corporate encouraging teams still working remotely to plan virtual social functions to keep collegial culture going and to stay in touch. Among the suggestions were game night, trivia, and watch party. With the premiere of the show only a couple of weeks away, I got busy telling everyone how I'd been meaning to get into this show, and it's so enticing and exciting, basically laying the groundwork to guilt them into coming to an impromptu virtual watch party of ours. I offered to get special shirts made and send them to each person's house, whatever I had to do to get the attention of corporate. Finally, I sent an invite to all my boss's bosses and any other members of corporate I could justify inviting without making a total ass of myself. Now, because this is entirely virtual, my boss is unable to overhear any of the chatter. He doesn't realize I'm hyping up this show, and he doesn't realize I've planned a watch party for it. I wasn't inviting him unless he had the balls to explicitly ask about it. I was hoping he wouldn't have heard about it at all, not until afterward. That was really the only way this could work. The night comes and I am screen sharing the show to a whopping 64 people, a huge chunk of my department. Many members of corporate had shown up because I was the only person stupid enough to buy into their virtual social work party scheme, so they felt pressure to support it. I was holding my breath, hoping this would go my way, bracing myself for some kind of curveball. But there wasn't even that dramatic of a build-up. Right at the outset, they introduced the premise, which included the contestants being in a COVID-safe bubble in an exotic location, and gave a brief overview of each contestant. As my boss was introduced, right down to what he did for work, I could see people register delight and surprise, then go blank, just before sliding into confusion and rage. The chat took a drastic turn from, "Oh my goodness," and "I knew him when," and all sorts of pithy jokes until a brave member of my team, or perhaps one just pushed a tad too far by all the extra hours he pulled in this douche's absence, sent the message, "Wait, when was this filmed?" My audience dropped from 64 to 58 to mid-30s, and by the time the episode was over, it was just me and the other 15 core members of the team. One asked if I'd already known, but some members of the team are very close to the boss, so all I said was, "Well, I definitely do now," and wrapped up the call pretty quickly after that. Perhaps one of the best bonuses is that you could already tell from episode 1 that the character arc the show assigned to our boss was Bumbling Idiot. He had his true colors on in full display, and some production massaging upped them to the 11th degree. Anyway, my boss was fired and my good buddy was promoted to his place. I am an office legend now, especially since no one is 100% sure whether or not it was intentional. And it was also satisfying that it was almost worth the dozens of hours of uncompensated overtime that led to it. Wow, OP, I gotta say, the production team from that show definitely pinned your boss perfectly as the bumbling idiot, because how would he expect to get away with this? It's a TV show. People would know and just do the math. What an idiot. Anyways, well done OP, good revenge. Thanks for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. All of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.